All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. I hope you're doing well today. So, it's a Sunday, and this whole past week, as most of you know, I have been a member of the grand jury, or a grand jury. And my enthusiasm to make this video update on it is pretty low because I can't talk about any of the cases, which is all of the wildly interesting stuff that's happened this week. And answering a few questions from the last video. Do you get paid for grand jury service? Yes, you do. You get $40 a day, which is just enough to eat lunch, but then lose your house at the end of the month when the mortgage is due. And thank God I squirreled away a little bit of money because the end of December is usually my slowest time of the year. Everything kind of shuts down as far as what I do. And so I'm not totally screwed, but we're moving. That's another update. We found a place, people. It looks like we're moving middle of February or March 1st. But moving is expensive. And I'm going into that whole ordeal just with my little grand jury 40, and that's about it. So I don't think it's I don't think it's convenient to be on one of these grand juries for anybody unless you've got just a fat checking account. Like, yeah. But after you get over the feeling of like, all right, I'm financially destitute, it's actually really interesting. And I'm learning a lot. And I would even say that some of it is really fun. And I really had I didn't understand. I don't know how you would really understand how it works until you do it. But I can explain to you kind of what the day looks like of a grand juror. So Monday I showed up, first day. And just like a lot of, just like everybody, basically, they had put off almost everything until after the holidays. So my first day when I was summoned was the day before Thanksgiving. Like usually you would be summoned on Friday, and then your first day would be on Monday. I was summoned on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and then Thursday was Thanksgiving, and then everybody has Friday off, and then Saturday, Sunday is the weekend. And so everything, like most of the things in the court system the week before, they just were like, all right, let's just put it off until Monday after the holiday. So we get there Monday, and it was maybe 2 or 3 degrees above freezing. So 30, 34, 35 degrees. And it was raining. And so it would have been better if it would have just been a little bit colder and started snowing. But it was ice raining and 35 degrees. And so you get there and there's so many people trying to get into the courthouse that there's a 35-minute wait outside just in the fucking ice rain. And so thank God I had brought my winter coat that has a hood. I was thinking like, all right, I'm going to be inside all day. Should I just grab this fleece? Or, it was like the last minute I grabbed the coat. And, but people were struggling in this line. This one guy just had like an insulated flannel shirt, and it was cold and windy and raining, and people are sitting there, and you got to be in the courthouse all day to start out the day with freezing cold ice jeans. And so it's 35 minutes wait outside of the courthouse. It's so busy. 25-minute wait once you get into the courthouse to go through the security line. You go through security and then up into the courtroom. And so I got into the courtroom 10 minutes after we were supposed to, technically 10 minutes late, and I was the 3rd person in there out of 23. So everybody just got clogged up in the... And they let pennant jersey, that's the word that I keep hearing them say, pennant? Something like that, pennant jury, they let that's the guilty innocent jurors, they let them skip that whole line because I guess if a judge is involved in the case, then it has to start on time. And so they were just skipping the line. And then so Tuesday, again, it was a little less cold, which was nice, but a disaster line outside of the courthouse, only to wait in line again inside the courthouse. And then once you're through security, there's another line to the elevator. And there's 6 elevators in this building, and it still takes probably 10 minutes to get to the floor that you want to go to, because there's just so many people going up and down at all times. So you'll get in an elevator on the first floor, and say you're going to floor 18. It'll stop almost on every one going up, and then so like once we're to the floor, and the point of explaining all that is it's barely worth leaving. Like we get 2 15-minute breaks and a lunch break, and I don't leave our floor or courtroom because you have to leave and then you have to come back through security. And so we're in a window, there's 23 of us, and we're in a windowless courtroom for 8 hours, basically 23 people with sandwich farts in a courtroom together, waiting for that door to open and a assistant district attorney to come in. And once they come in and we're doing a case, time pretty much flies, and a lot of times it's sad, but it's really interesting, and I do feel like I'm doing some sort of service. And I do agree. I understand why the people that wrote our Constitution put in a grand jury, because say that you make a senator mad or something, or a district attorney or a cop or somebody, and they're all corrupt and they're all in on it, say you bang a senator's husband or wife or something, and they're like, all right, we're gonna take this person down. So they get the DA that they're in cahoots with, or they get the police that they're in cahoots with to arrest you. And they're like, you're arrested for murder. You're going away for murder. And you're like, what? I didn't murder anybody. And they're like, yeah, you did. And then the district attorney is going, we're charging you with murder. And everybody's winking at each other like, yeah, we're going to get this guy. We're going to throw him in a cage, And you're like, no, you guys are all corrupt. You're against me. This is insane. And they're like, that's exactly what a murderer would say. Murderer. And you're like, no, what's going on? Well, the protection with all of those people that could be corrupt together, we're all on the same team. All of a sudden, there's 23 civilians like me that have to hear all the evidence before it goes down the pike. So it would be really hard, even if you got a cop in your pocket, like this lady banged my husband, even if you got a judge, all this thing, you still have to present. And I guess you could cook it up, but you can tell that there's a general feeling with the grand jury of, I don't know, maybe not suspicious. Everybody, it's like, in order to charge someone, you want the evidence to be good. And so all of a sudden there's just 23 citizens in there, and to get all of them on the same page of corruption. And so although it rips people out of their life for 2 weeks or a month, I understand why we have to do it. And what's also pretty crazy is I'm on the 2-week one, so I have to be there every day for 2 weeks, 8 hours. And then there's another jury that's there for a month, and that was the one that, once they told one guy he was literally grabbing onto the witness stand in the courtroom on the first day, like claw marks, like, no, I can't do it for a month, no, like yanking him away. And they're getting, I heard, just from being there, they're actually getting rid of the 2-week. So if you live in New York State, the chances you're going to be doing one of these for a month at some point is pretty good. And the reason is, I also now understand, like when I first got there, I was like, 2 weeks? Good God. It just seemed like a long time to pluck someone out of their life. But the reason they do that, and the reason they're even getting rid of the 2 weeks is, so pretend I'm an assistant district attorney. And in Brooklyn, there are a ton of them. And so I don't know how many cases they get a month or a quarter or whatever it is in their caseload, but I'm pretty sure they're dealing with a lot. So imagine I'm an assistant district attorney and I get given a case. This is just totally hypothetical. I can't talk about any of the details. So say I get a case of assault. Someone is standing on the subway platform and someone comes up and assaults them. Okay, so I have to basically show all of the evidence that there is to a grand jury, and then they vote on whether the person gets charged or not. And so say there was a lady across the platform that saw it happen. Say there's a security camera footage, and that, you know, obviously the victim was there, and you know, let's just do that. And so, and maybe the cop that arrested him has some information too relevant to the grand jury. So say that the woman across the platform, say she can only come in on Thursday. The victim can come in on Monday. The police officer can come in on Wednesday the next week. And so I'm, as the district attorney dealing with this case, now I'm a scheduler. So I am scheduling when everybody can come. And any time that they can come, there has to be a grand jury available. You can't, if the victim can come and testify on a Monday, and the cop that arrested him that needs to testify can't come the next Wednesday, you have to have the same 23 people that heard it, or 16 is the absolute minimum. And they do 23 because inevitably people call out. They get a head cold. They have a doctor's appointment. They have to, you know. And so the goal is 23. The minimum is 16. So you have to have the people that saw the first one, the victim, on Tuesday. All of those people have to be whenever the cop is available. And so say on Tuesday you do the victim, and then you show the grand jury the security camera footage. And then the DAs go, you will hear more on this at a later time. Please don't deliberate until I can. And then so say a few days later you get the other witness, and then this next week we'll hear the police officer, and then a day later then you'll hear the charges that they're going for, and then you'll vote on them. And so 2 weeks to someone like me that has all this stuff to do and needs to somehow make enough money to move seems like a long time. But to get a case through fairly and to have it voted on or everything, you could see how a week goes by super quick. All it takes is one of the witnesses or somebody to just be like, nah, I can't do it this week. I can do Thursday next week. And it's like, okay, well, there has to be the same. You could see why we just have to be there the whole time, because you can't say, okay, so the cop that arrested him is coming in on Thursday. Call all 23 people and see if they could come in Thursday, because the answer is going to be no, we can't. You know, most people are going to be like, I can't come in Thursday. But if you just have to be there, and so what ends up happening is you hear a little bit of a case. They take maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then it's, all right, you're going to hear further. You're going to hear, you know, more on this case later. And so, like I said, if it doesn't ruin you financially, I think this is the jury duty to get, because you hear all of these different cases, which is so interesting. And everything's real snappy, you know. It's not like a trial, innocent guilty trial, where a lot of it is dry and maybe it's like 4 hours of just legal jargon and then 10 minutes where someone is testifying where it's like, this is unbelievably interesting. Grand jury is basically just the interesting parts. If they got a security camera footage, you're just going to watch that and then it's over. If they got... if there's a witness that saw something, they bring them in quickly, swear them in, they say what they saw, and then that's it. We'll see you in a couple days for the charges. So it is I mean, for like the people that like this channel, it really is just gold. It's just, you know, you're like a part of the whole thing that we all pay attention to. The thing that I don't know, so a lot of people in the other video, the last video I did talking about it, were saying you can talk about the details of the cases once it's all over and take notes, and you'll be able to talk about it when it's over. At least what I've heard so far, that's not true. So on the second day, the guy went out of his way to be like, you can never, he said, can't talk about this, quote, ever. And he even said he was like on a pennant jury, the guilty, and I don't know if that word's right, on the guilty and innocent type jury. He even said, he was like, the judge tells you once this is over, you can talk about it. But with grand jury, for whatever reason, if there's any lawyers that know why, please leave it in the comments. We do have a legal advisor that I, just for my own curiosity, I'm going to ask. But they've always seemed so busy, I didn't want to ask a like pertinent question. Just, hey, I know you're wildly busy, but I have a podcast, and I was wondering, and they are serious about it. You can only take notes in these green booklets that they give you, and then you have to turn in the notes at the end of the night. Can't bring them home. Can't take notes on your phone. Excuse me. Total secrecy, and just hypothesizing why maybe can't ever talk about it is maybe it's too early on in the process. It's just the charging process, so they want to keep that. Like maybe if it goes on and all the charges get dropped, they don't want people's reputation to take a hit. Maybe because they're not there, they don't have like a lawyer there to defend themselves. Maybe it's something to have to do with that. But whatever it is, grand jury is just sealed out. And so what a day looks like is you get there around 9:30. You have to leave my place before 8:30. It's just a nightmare commute. That's the other thing, is I'm out there with like my lunch pail on the 9 to 5 grind, baby. And so I get there around 9:30 in the morning, like into the courtroom, and we're in the same courtroom, and we have our same chair. So I get to my spot in the jury box, and you know, everyone's getting real friendly. We're on like a good joking level where we're starting to have fun with each other. And so we get there, and you know, you'll sit down, and it could be an hour or two before anything happens. And you never know when anything is going to happen. We just have to be available for any time, any of these cases that they're trying to get through. Anytime anyone can come in, we have to be available. So we're sitting there, maybe an hour goes by. It's kind of just silent in the courtroom. And you don't have to sit in your chair in the jury box. So say, you know, a couple people are sitting over in the benches on their computer. Someone has laid down to take a little nap. You know, everybody's got headphones in. Maybe 2 people are talking. And it's just like you're just in a windowless courtroom. And then all of a sudden, boom, the door opens, and a district attorney with papers and a court report come in. So everybody, you know, takes the headphones out and gets up, and we all sit in the box, and they go, hello, good afternoon, grand jury. And we go, good afternoon. And then you hear a 15 to 20 minute thing. You know, you now hear testimony from so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes it just rolls. As soon as the district attorney from that case, well, you know, the door never closes. Another one comes in, and it's and then once you hear all the evidence, then it's time to vote. So the DA says, you've heard all the evidence. This is what we're going for. Me and the court reporter are going to leave the room. And then they leave the room, and we vote on it. And it's gotten pretty heated. Some of them, it's pretty smooth, but it's gotten pretty heated. And because you feel a duty to be fair and super reasonable. And so when someone has an opinion that doesn't feel fair or reasonable to someone else, you can imagine things are said. But overall, it seems like even though some things are said, as soon as we're done voting or whatever, and it's the next, people kind of reset. But yeah, I would say of just 23 random people coming together, I'm impressed by how reasonable and fair and just smart and cool everybody is. And also just the drive to do well, or, you know, to be good at it. what was I going to say? I had another... yeah, I don't know. I had one more thing to say. Well, that's kind of fitting. Just end it with really nothing, because that's what I feel like I have for you guys as far as interesting details go. But yeah, I don't know. I've also been following a lot of like China news. A Chinese interrogation video was released, and I saw it on Benjamin Boyce's YouTube channel. And what it was is this Chinese guy was joking on a message board about how Chinese police were unfairly confiscating motorcycles. And I don't know what their policy is with confiscating motorcycles, but so and I don't, speak Chinese, but I was reading about it, and pretty much you'd have to be an idiot to not know that it was a joke. But they bring this guy in for an interrogation, and he's in a metal chair cage. It looks like something out of a dystopian nightmare disaster, book or something. But so he's in a chair, excuse me, and there's metal bars like this around, going all the way down his legs. So I think they probably tell you it so you can't kick, but it's more just demoralizing. And then there's a flat surface where his hands are cuffed to this flat surface, so he can't lift his forearms at all. And then more bars. So he's in like a jail cage chair. And again, this is for a joke online about the police. And so he's saying, and they're saying, do you know why you're here? And he's sitting in this cage and he goes, yes, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I drank too much. And they're like, you drank too much. That's your excuse? And he's like, yes. And they're like, well, what did you do? And he's like, I said something online. I'm sorry. And, his hands are chained to this thing. I said something online. I'm sorry. I mean, we don't treat... just think even like a guy like Grant Amato in the interrogation was sitting there free and everything, and this guy makes a joke online, and they're like, and so they run him through the whole thing. Like, do you feel bad that you said something to the police? And he's like, yes, I feel horrible. And it's just awful. And December 1st, so 8 days ago, they unleashed that social credit system that I did a video on. And also recently, the big cell phone company, Huawei, they had a guy that worked for Huawei that worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And then when his contract ended, they didn't rehire him, and he demanded severance pay, and they jailed him. And that actually caused protests in China. And then also recently in China, probably heard about it. They did it they talked about it on South Park. Winnie the Pooh is banned. It's gone. It's scrubbed from Chinese internet. Disappeared because Supreme Leader Xi, or President Xi, or whatever, people think that he looks like Winnie the Pooh. So people were posting memes of Winnie the Pooh and him next to him, and they do look very similar. And so Winnie the Pooh is now gone. And now all I can think about when President Xi does a speech or something is Winnie the Pooh only wears a red shirt, right? That's it. He's naked other than just his red shirt. And so now all I can picture when Xi is speaking is if he was only wearing a red shirt and dress shoes. Can you imagine? And then he leaves the podium, and just from the waist down, he's totally naked. And South Park is banned. And I don't know, it's just so fascinating to me. And I keep having this thought of, I think the Chinese government is going to ruin the internet. I really do. It's just too free right now. And they're gonna have so much money at a certain point, and they already do, and that's how they influence. Is they have so much money to put into an organization or into And the way they negotiate is if you make them mad or you say something that's anti, whatever, then they take away. So the NBA, that whole thing, which is the basketball association here in the United States, a general manager tweeted out, and the NBA is huge in China because of a Chinese player that did really well called Yao Ming. So the NBA makes a ton of money in China, and a general manager tweeted, "Fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong." 2 sentences. Pretty simple. China, threatened that if anything like that comes out, they're just going to shut down the NBA in China, and they make so much money off China. The NBA tiptoed around it, but basically told everyone to be careful what you say of China, and everyone's like, why? Why is the Chinese speech stifle on us too? And then LeBron James, who's worth $1 billion, and whether they have China or not, he's going to probably easily make another $1 billion. He came out in an interview and was like, hey, I don't think that general manager that said what he said on Twitter, I don't think he's educated. And it's like, what are you talking about, LeBron? It's 2 sentences. Which sentence wasn't educated? It's just fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong. And then a bunch of people came out and were like, don't be mad at LeBron. Charles Barkley said this. He's just looking out for his business interests in China, and why can't he look out for his business interest? And I think the disappointment in LeBron was, yeah, but he's a billionaire and he's a great businessman with unbelievable earning potential, whether China is there or not. So at what point do we get to say, at what point do you not just have to say, everybody about China, okay, just dribble the ball and shoot? That's but that interrogation footage was just horrifying that just came out. Like I said, it was on Benjamin Boyce's YouTube channel. And what Benjamin Boyce is famous for on YouTube, people that watch his channel know I'm a sucker for like authoritarian communist governments. How does it happen? Where does it come from? How do they operate? And this Benjamin guy, he graduated from Evergreen State College, which is a college in the state of Washington, in Olympia, Washington. So it's this unbelievably cool looking campus. It's a college in the middle of this insane, mature forest, beautiful green, like evergreen trees. And it's one of those like experimental, very left-leaning universities, but for many years it was doing really cool things. Like the creator of The Simpsons, one of the best comedy cartoons of all times, he went there. They had a music studio that they would let up-and-coming musicians record for free, and they let Kurt Cobain and early, forms of Nirvana record there. So they have like early Kurt Cobain and a band, playing, and they have like the tape of it in their archives, which that's cool stuff. Well, in 2016, and so that Benjamin Boyce, in 2016 or 17, the whole college completely fell apart and had to close down. And this Benjamin Boyce that had the video about the Chinese interrogation, he made his whole kind of YouTube name talking about how this college went from this great, alternative, everyone's making this cool stuff college, to being shut down and having protesters lock faculty and administration in offices and all this stuff. And so I saw this, I have all these hours to kill while I'm in grand jury. And so I saw the Chinese interrogation, and then I started watching his videos on the Evergreen State College. And what a nut story this is. And so what it is in 2017, and it basically came from a few staff members. One of them, her name was Naima Lowe. And Naima started accusing the faculty at staff meetings, and you gotta understand that this is a extremely left-leaning liberal arts college. So pretty much everybody at the staff meetings are progressive, leftists, and this one teacher, Naima, or a few, but what it seems, I've watched a million of this Benjamin Boyce's videos on it. It's just fascinating, and I'll tie it back into the whole China thing. And but this one teacher, Naima, starts accusing the administration and all the other teachers that there is wild racism happening in the administration, and that all of the teachers, basically her opinion is that all of the teachers have this deep-seated, brutal racism inside of them that they don't maybe know about, and that every part of the administration and the way that the campus works is unimaginably racist. And because it's such a left-leaning school, all of the teachers are already, progressive, and so there's a whole chunk of them that were thinking, like, maybe I am just a brutal racist. I never thought I was, but and kind of went along with it. And the president, who just got humiliated in the whole thing and had to resign and everything, but the president really let it go, and there's one teacher, and his name was Brett Weinstein, who, it's funny, is a progressive Jew who, once it all started to get going, was deemed a racist Nazi. And this Brett Weinstein, I've ended up watching one of his lectures, and he is probably the most reasonable, as far as politics goes, one of the most reasonable, fair political opinions that I've ever heard. And so he is a systems biologist. And so his mind is really good at looking at these big biological systems and scientific systems and seeing why things happen and, what caused this. And so this Naima woman is over and over again saying that this campus is unbelievably racist, and everybody at this campus is unbelievably deep-seated, malignantly racist. And Brett Weinstein, who is a progressive Jewish guy, was the only one, and he's a celebrated professor, loved by the kids, did all of these amazing field trips for kids. And so he felt that his reputation was strong enough that he could was the one person to stand up and say, hey, Naima, do you have any examples of the, if this is true and we have all this racism ingrained in every single place and every single way that this extremely left-leaning progressive university works, then we need to talk about those things, and we need to flush them out and figure them out. And Naima's response is basically that since Brett is just by default a horrible racist, then there's no way that he'll be understand, and even asking about an example of the racism is in fact wildly racist. And so this progressive Jewish guy, Weinstein, is now deemed a racist by Naima, and slowly Naima and her people that are on her side, they keep, going at the president, going at the staff, saying you guys are all racist, and this whole institution is racist. And so what the president did is he formed a council called the Equity Council, and they were to help the college on their journey to equity. And as soon as I've said on here that my girlfriend's grandfather was killed by Stalin's guys, and so I was interested in like the Soviet Union and that whole communist thing. And then I've read a few books on North Korea, and even pretty much all of them, once it starts to get really bad, is when the government or whoever is in charge gives power to some committee or some tribunal, the Human Rights Tribunal or the Equity Committee. Or so the president of this college says, okay, I don't see it, but I will take your word for it that this whole place is wildly racist and that we are all racist. And so to combat that and to give the voice needed, we'll start this equity committee. And really don't get bogged down in the race, how they just deem everybody a racist, because they don't even, after watching all the videos, I don't even think they care about race or racism. What they're doing is it's just a fight for power. They're Marxist communists, and just like all the other political groups, they're fighting for power. Well, it's hard to come out and say, we are the communists, because it's easy to say, well, look at China, look at all these places, it ends up terrible. And so instead of saying, hey, we're the communists, we're going for power, they just say, do you want equity? Are you against equity? And most reasonable people are like, yeah, of course I want equity, right? I mean, I'm not a supremacist, so yeah, I want equity. And so that's how it's really uncomfortable to be accused of racism. And so they know not a lot of people aren't like Brett that are saying, you know what, even if they're going to call me a racist, I'm going to just say, hey, this is crazy. But only Brett did. Everybody else was like, oh, okay, I'll start dealing with my own racism. And so this committee that gets all this power, the Equity Committee, they propose the Evergreen plan for equity, and it's this big stack of papers with single line. And Brett Weinstein said he went to the meeting after they handed this out, and the meeting was supposed to be like, okay, should we sign this big equity plan into practice at the university? And it was just totally nuts. It was like, it's like if the Human Rights Tribunal or the Equity Committee, if they put something forward, make sure to read it, because the title is just like, do you like equity? And it's like, of course I do. I'll sign it. But 30 pages into this thing, it got pretty bizarre. One of them is, since everybody in the staff of this progressive university is full-blown racist, one of the parts in it was every year the professors in their self-evaluation have to write about their own personal racism and how they're working on their own personal racism, which then goes on to always be in your permanent record and follows you to your next job and all of this crazy stuff. And so Brett Weinstein stands up and goes, we cannot do this. We cannot sign this. As you can imagine, he's deemed even more racist than he even was before that. And it's just like I said, it's like, so you're against equity? And there's no way to say, no, I'm for equity. We can't, there's a lot more in this plan for equity than just equity. There seems to be a lot of bizarre, and no one stood up for Brett, and his wife was a professor there too. None of the administration stood up for them, and they're, you know, being deemed racists and all this stuff. And students that are in Naima, the Naima professor's class, she's riling them up. So there's about 200 students, and it devolves into them protesting Brett so much that the cops call him and say, don't come to campus. You know, there's a protest where he is on campus, and they kind of block him in his room. And there's another time where all these protesters take over the building and take all the administration and lock them in at one point. And what's funny is the protesters think that they think that they're like the hippies in the 60s. Like, this is, you know, we're in the right. And so they're filming themselves doing all of this, filming themselves locking the administration in an office. And one's like, can I pee? And he's like, no, hold it. Posting it themselves to the internet, thinking, and it just, you know, we're 2 years later now, and the college is absolutely tanking. Like incoming freshmen is very, very little, not to a point it could keep the college going. Brett Weinstein they gave him $500,000 to resign. They gave his wife $500,000 to resign. They gave that Naima woman $240,000 to resign. But now there's so many case studies on it and giant, you know, documentaries on it, because it's such a concentrated situation that went from a pretty well working, you know, a lot of people that went there said it was a great place to go to college, and when people that taught there said it was a great place to work, went from being a pretty stable liberal arts college to a full-on communist coup, to completely, they had to shut the whole thing down, and now, you know, it's slowly petering out from here. And if you read the comments of a lot of the videos on YouTube, it's like there's one point where the equity committee they've kind of taken over, and they have all this power, and there's a meeting, and this guy's horrifying. I couldn't find his name, but he's up there with a microphone, and he's going, as we start our journey to equity, it's like a magical place of equity. As we start this journey to equity, we need to get on a metaphorical canoe. So I would like all the administration and the teachers to come down at this time. And, you know, they're all up there just trying to be like, I'm for equity. Please don't be mad at me. Please don't call me a racist. And this guy's like, okay, get down. Now form a canoe. So a few people on this side, down the middle, so they're all standing. And it's just, it feels like where Otto Warmbier is in that press conference in North Korea, where it's just a clown world all of a sudden. So they make this canoe, and they go, okay, this is the canoe to equity. But first, before we head on our journey, the administration, you need to ask permission to be in the canoe. So please step out. So these like college administrators step out, and, you know, and there's all these people in the room. And they go, okay, well, ask permission to be on the canoe. And so they're sitting there with a microphone with this horrified look on their face going, I asked permission to get on the canoe because I promise to take my own racism into account when I do my job, and to always focus and internalize my own racism. And I hope that I am allowed on the canoe. And then they hand off the microphone. It's like, I will make sure that I do everything I can in order to, you know, and it's just bizarro world. And then they get in this canoe, and all of the comments on YouTube are like, I grew up in communist China, and if you switch out the word racism with anti-communism, this is exactly what we did. And so to see college is kind of like a little society or a little town. To see it go from pretty well running to all of a sudden these, whatever, ideologues, whatever you want to call them, to come up and for the whole thing to be just kaputs in like a year or so is really interesting. So Benjamin Boyce, check him out. Even Brett Weinstein he's been on like Joe Rogan and stuff now, and even he is just not fun to listen to about the whole thing. But that's kind of what I've been listening to while I'm killing time at grand jury duty. I'm going to cut it off there. I hope you guys are having a good weekend. I cannot wait to get back in the swing of things. I want to do like a big multi-day interrogation analysis. Just kind of clicking around to see which one we should do. But yeah, hope you're having a good weekend. I'll see you next time. Why? Starving why?